Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dale Menyo. As we look to the latest, agricultural groups breathed a sigh of relief late Thursday when the International Longshoremen's Association agreed to return to work at ports along the East Coast and Gulf of Mexico. The three-day strike at 36 U.S. ports has been suspended as the ILA union members and United States Maritime Alliance have come to a tentative agreement. Dow Jones reported the breakthrough Thursday came after port employers offered a 62% increase in wages over 6 years, according to people familiar with the matter. The new offer, up from the earlier proposed rate of 50%, came after the White House privately and publicly pressed the large shipping lines and cargo terminal operators who employ the longshore workers to make a new offer to the union. The news of the ILA returning to work is also music to the ears of agriculture groups who urged President Biden to intervene. On Thursday evening, on behalf of the U.S. Meat Export Federation member companies and organizations, they said, "We want to thank all parties involved in the effort to get cargo moving again off the East and Gulf Coast. This is a tremendous relief to everyone in the U.S. meat and livestock industries, as about $100 million worth of beef and pork products are exported every week through East and Gulf Coast ports." Mike Steenhoek, executive director of the Soy Transportation Coalition, said, "Of all the occupations in the world, farmers are among those who experience the highest degree of unpredictability and uncertainty. Despite these challenges, farmers show a remarkable ability to predictably and reliably provide food for U.S. and international customers. It is therefore not unreasonable to insist that pork workers and port operators provide a similar degree of reliability to agriculture and the many industries that depend upon them. We sincerely hope a lasting agreement can be achieved by January 15th that benefits both parties. We continue to not pick sides between the ILA and the USMX, but we most certainly are on the side of the American farmer. Having a reliable system of ports is clearly in the best interest of the American farmer." Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
Drier weather emerging over Ohio. However, I don't think it's going to be problematic because we don't see large-scale heat. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your Ohio Ag weather update. Here's what's going on. We are drying down for today, well, actually starting yesterday, but today going all the way through this weekend into the start of next week. As a matter of fact, we may get away with almost no precipitation across Ohio through next Thursday. Next Tuesday, Wednesday are interesting because there's some moisture trying to come across Illinois into parts of southern Indiana, but nothing well enough organized to make it all the way to us. So I think that we're going to be pushing into Thursday and Friday before our next round of moisture. When it comes, we likely pick up anywhere from a quarter to 3/4 of an inch with coverage around 80% of Ohio, but it won't be till late next week. However, as we've kind of alluded to, the heat seems to want to be bundled up a little bit farther to the south and west. Texas, southern Oklahoma, but not expanding into our neck of the woods here. So while I think that humidity values are going to be comfortable, temperatures are going to be pretty doggone close to normal. Humidity will try and sneak back up early next week, but I don't think it's to a level that's going to be awful at this point in time. I really see no problems here for crop growth and development across the Buckeye State, particularly when we're looking at soybeans with pod set, pod fill. Weather looks pretty nice for that overall. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Well, the ruling for electronic identification ear tags for interstate movement of cattle and bison set by the USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service will take effect on November the 5th. The nationwide ruling, which takes effect November 5th, requires official EID tags to be in certain classes of cattle and bison for interstate movement. The ruling was announced in April and enhances a previous 2013 rule that requires all sexually intact cattle and bison 18 months of age or older, dairy cattle, and rodeo and exhibition cattle to have an official form of animal identification. This ruling institutes visual ID tags for interstate movement, and the new rule switches producers to EID tags or electric identification tags. During a webinar hosted by the Iowa Cattlemen's Association, Kevin Petersburg, area USDA APHIS veterinarian in charge for Iowa, outlined the requirements for producers. He said those animals that have previous official ID tags in place with the USDA, shield presence, don't have to replace those tags as they are good for the life of the animal. This doesn't add any new classes of livestock to what previously required official ID. They just have to have an electrical ID tag now, and it's for interstate movement only. It's still all sexually intact cattle and bison 18 months of age or over, all dairy cattle of any age, including dairy beef cross calves, cattle and bison of any age used for rodeo or recreational events, and cattle and bison of any age used for shows or exhibition, he explained. The EID ear tags are currently available at no cost from state agricultural departments as requested by the herd veterinarian while supplies last. Tags are also available through tag manufacturers, but will cost money. All EID tags have specific unique numbers along with the USDA shield. Each number should begin with the number 840, which is the U.S. country code, then followed by 003 and 9 more unique numbers per tag. The tags with a 982 code will no longer be acceptable. While the tags are free now, we don't know how long that will last. That will depend on the funding provided through Congress. Congress already allotted $15 million to pay for these tags. Back with more after this.
During Ohio's harvest season, let's remember to share the road with our hardworking farmers. Plan extra time to get where you're going safely. Remember, farm vehicles may veer off the road in preparation for a turn, so have patience, be alert, and never speed past farm machinery. Pass with care to show the farmers that you care as they work day and night to bring the bounty of harvest to your table. This safety tip brought to you by the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation. Visit bwc.ohio.gov for more safety resources.
Hi everyone, this is Dale Minio from the Ohio AgNet. For a quarter of a century, I powered my truck with biodiesel, traveling the state promoting agriculture. Biodiesel is a reliable, high-performance fuel that works in any diesel engine without modification. The best part is that with every mile driven, I'm fueling the economy, doing good for the environment, and supporting soybean farmers. Learn how using biodiesel can add value to every bushel of soybeans grown at soyohio.org. A U.S. senator takes to task the head of Deere & Company in a letter accusing the company of violating the Clean Air Act and restricting farmers from fully repairing their own equipment while raising the cost of those repairs. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts asked the CEO of Deere & Company this past week to answer 11 questions about the right to repair issue. In a letter to Deere & Company's John C. May, the CEO, Senator Elizabeth Warren includes a list of 11 questions and asks for a response by October the 17th of this year. Warren calls into question whether a memorandum of understanding signed by the American Farm Bureau Federation, Deere, and 4 other farm equipment manufacturers on January 8, 2023 resulted in increased access to diagnostic tools and other materials for farmers. But the memorandum of understanding appeared to be a veiled attempt to staff off the passage of right-to-repair legislation, Warren said in the letter. Rather than uphold their end of the bargain, John Deere has provided impaired tools and inadequate disclosures, in addition to costing farmers time and money. This refusal to provide meaningful right to repair likely indicates that John Deere may be violating the Clean Air Act by restricting repairs of its products' emissions systems. Warren told May the cost of parts and labor for repairing agriculture equipment have nearly doubled since 2020. In fact, she said the costs have spiked 41%. While demand for new machines goes up and down, John Deere keeps its profits streaming in by overcharging for repair services, she said. Despite labor strikes, supply disruptions, a drop in sales, and a global pandemic, the company has experienced a 270% increase in profits since 2020, Warren said. The increase in cost, the letter said, coincides with a trend toward an increasing amount of software and linked parts in farm equipment, a major mechanism through which manufacturers restrict independent repair. Warren said Deere appears to be using its control over this electronic software to force consumers to use only company-authorized repair services. A John Deere spokesperson did not respond to DTN's request for comment. Back with a look at the markets after this.
Did you know soybeans' number one customer is animal agriculture? That includes Ohio's beef farms. Research from the Soy Checkoff found that U.S. beef operations use over 1.3 million tons of soybean meal every year. That's the meal from about 55 million bushels of U.S. soybeans. Essential protein, energy, and amino acids. High-quality feed for heart-healthy beef. Soybeans, feeding the industry that feeds us. Brought to you by Ohio's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
If your road trip leads you to Ohio's farm country, be sure to share the road with Ohio's farmers. Farm machinery moves slowly, makes wide turns, and needs extra space to avoid obstacles like mailboxes and guardrails. Let's all be mindful and make sure everyone gets home safe and sound this year. This message brought to you by the Ohio AgNet, OSU Extension Ag Safety and Health Team, and this station.
Time now for the Louis Dreyfus Grain Analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished out last week on a slightly weaker note, but this week it's all about harvest. Let's take a look at how we finished out last Friday and talk a little bit about what may hit the markets today. Harvest pressure and hedging pressure was the key topic of discussion midday and afternoon on Friday. That turned the chart patterns a little more bearish. The fund to short covering in wheat and corn ended midweek last week. Board of Trade values turned lower for Thursday and Friday, and the harvest hedge pressure probably is going to continue through a decent chunk of this week. Now, early on Friday, the market tried to rally because of news that ADM would be taking maintenance on their Iowa crush plant. However, honestly, that was known for a very, very long time. And you got to look at the fact that there are 3 other new U.S. crush plants that have come online in the past 2 weeks, with another plant preparing to come online in late October. So Des Moines or Iowa can go down for ADM, and the market will not care. World wheat values were lower last Friday. Turkey looking to expend a partial import ban, which will further restrict demand from the key world importer. The news pulled the Chicago wheat futures below support last Friday, and then we saw the 100-day moving average fall as well. The forecast of Ukrainian rain also added to wheat's decline last week. I'm looking for that to follow through, at least through the Monday session. We'll see if there's any demand news that comes in. Diminished wheat imports by Turkey will drop world wheat import totals, with Russian values being the hardest hit. Last week on Friday, the flash reported sale of 116,000 metric tons came out, and that was beans to China. 198,000 tons of corn to unknown, rumored to be Mexico. Their Congress is taking up legislation that removes imported GMO corn unless it is shipped in cracked form. I don't know what that means to the guys that are thinking about it down there, but it's definitely a talking point here, and it could cause some problems. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. December corn, $4.24.5 to start the week, down 1/4 cent. March down 1/2 cent at $4.41 1/4. If you go clear out to May, you're at $4.50, but down 1/2 cent. November soybeans, $10.30 1/4 cent, down 7 1/2. January down 7 1/4 at $10.48 3/4, and March down 7 at $10.64 1/4 cent. December wheat is unchanged at $5.89 3/4. March down 1/4 cent at $6.12 1/2, and July new crop down 1/4 penny at $6.32 1/2. In livestock, wrap up last week, October cattle was $1 higher on Friday at $187. December up 60 cents, also at $187. The October lean hogs, $84.02, down 15. December down 25 at $76.15. And February down 32, but at $79.82. November feeder cattle up $1.15 at $249.27. January feeder cattle up $1.82 at $244.37. November Class 3 milk down 16 cents at $21.23. Thanks for joining us. This is the Ohio AgNet.